Hello, time for another vlog about nothing in particular. It's sort of a monthly update or something of that sort. It's July 2022 and I know I'm not making many of these vlogs. It's because I kind of feel like I don't have much to say. But usually when I start talking about stuff I do find I have a few things to say, so I've made some notes as well, so we'll see how it goes. In my life, what's going on? Nothing. Same as usual. I go to work, I come home, play computer games, or maybe make a video. That's about it. And that's kind of how I like it, except for the going to work bit, of course. As Homer Simpson once said, nobody wants to work. Well, I think that's true, more or less. Anyway, I think some people enjoy volunteering. I sometimes feel that I should, but I'm busy enough, and I'm not keen on it anyway. I don't know. Maybe one day, when I'm retired, who knows. I'd rather keep out of it and just donate money, really. But I'm not a billionaire, though that's not the threshold. Actually, you know. And actually, going to work is less of a problem these days than it used to be, because since 2019 and the events thereof, the company I'm working for has embraced hybrid working, so I spend between 1/3 and half of my time working from home anyway. I do like IT support, so people phone up with issues, and although some things you really need to be hands-on, probably 80% of stuff can be fixed over the phone. I mean, yes, you get users who can't figure out how to plug the screen in and stuff, and it's better if you're there and you can just do it. But most of the issues are fairly standard Microsoft applications breaking down or dropping their add-ins off as usual. It's these things that Microsoft never ever fixes, that have gone on for years and years and years. There are bugs in Word that, despite newer and newer versions, have been there for 30 years. It's strange. Of course, it's all about making money, not about fixing stuff. Fixing stuff is a cost, I guess. If it's good enough to sell, why fix it? I think that's the idea. It's doesn't bode well with my perfectionist mind, but it does mean that I get a job. Anyway, what have I written here? Can't even read it. Oh yes, actually another, for example, actually booting Windows. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it redraws the icons a number of times on the desktop there as it boots up. I remember once, probably it was Windows 2000 or something, I counted it, and it redrew the icons 7 times in the process of booting up. I mean, that's not efficient, is it? I don't think it does 7 times anymore. I think it's reduced, but it still does it more than once. So it's a bit of a waste of time and electricity and all the rest of it, really. So yeah, that's the kind of things I think about. I've been playing Distant Worlds, the old version, because it was like £1.25 on Steam. It's a very complicated 4X game, space empire type thing. Really as a way of exercising my brain, because Civilization has been dumbed down over the years, so it very much directs you what to look at next, whereas Distant World doesn't tell you. It's just all open, you do what you want, and it's difficult. And I think my brain needs the exercise. I could go on from that maybe to Stellaris or Europa Universalis, or one of those games where they don't really tell you or hold your hand. I mean, I've played them, but I don't play them very well, and I find them a bit tiresome because I don't know really what I should be focusing on. So I've just decided I'll focus with Distant Worlds, and we'll see how it goes, and I might try Distant Worlds 2 at some point. Yeah, good brain exercise, see? Now, as to making videos of gameplay, I'm still not happy with the way YouTube has been treating them. I think it's assessed my channel as a non-game playing channel, and it doesn't send viewers to the gameplays. Probably what I would need to do is start a new channel just for the gameplay. But it's a bit of an effort. Not much effort, I suppose, to start a channel, but I don't know. It's something that's in the back of my mind, but I'm concerned about the extra workload because I'm lazy, you know, and one has to consider one's propensities. But I play the games anyway, after all. I think the thing about it is I wouldn't be doing like a channel where I try out every new game and comment on how it is. I would only be playing the things that I find a bit interesting in the first place. So probably city builders, 4X games sometimes, things of that sort. I don't know what I would call it either. If you've got great ideas, you know, Alphatucana 2, I don't know. Anyway, that's an idea. If you have ideas for a name, you can stick it in the comments, but it could be a long time before I buckle down and actually do that. It's just an idea that comes up every now and then, because people do want gameplay videos. And some of the old gameplay videos are my most watched videos on my channel still. It's just that when I make new ones, YouTube does not understand, and it does not promote them properly, and it downrates them. After a few days, they are getting 1 hit per day. It's terrible. So I don't want that, if you like, polluting the ratings for the rest of the channel, because I think there's a chance that it would. And the rest of the channel is doing so-so. I'm not rich and famous, but, well, a couple of thousand subscribers can't be sniffed at, eh? And I have thought that, although I don't like Patreon and do not have an account on it, because of the way it enforces censorship, I did try it and got nowhere with it anyway once upon a time, but then they did their banning of various people, and I thought, well, that's not fair, because they were banning them even though they were not breaking Patreon's stated rules. I don't want that kind of hypocrisy, a random banning hanging over my channel or anybody else's. So I've got ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com, so you can always buy me a coffee. But that's not really doing anything, and maybe Subscribestar will be the way to go. Get just a few small sponsors on the channel, that might help. I think, given that I'm not producing many videos, I should probably go for so much per video rather than so much per month. But then, yeah, that would be okay. And if I did gameplay channel, then I would do it the other way probably, because gameplay videos, obviously one produces a lot more of them. Almost on a daily basis, I would think. But for this channel, well, I'll see, I'll think about it. Again, I've looked at Subscribe Star, but it doesn't really tell me enough about how it works. It's all about join now. Well, why, you know? Anyway, pondering it slowly. Meanwhile, what's going on in the country? The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Well, we have the Tory party hustings. Now that Bojo the clown has pretended to resign, he's still in power, in fact. He's still the Prime Minister. Because the Tories have to choose a new leader for the party. And that person will become the Prime Minister. The Queen could decide differently, but that's very unlikely. And so, I haven't been watching the hustings, it's just, the whole idea is terrible. But I just have this awful feeling we're going to end up with a lightweight, like Fishy Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss. I don't have good impressions of these two. I don't know much about the other candidates. Penny Mordaunt's supposed to be quite clever, I don't know. But my feeling is we're likely to end up with Rishi. He who made his fortune, he's a billionaire, almost I think, and he made his fortune from a hedge fund which he and a friend were running and they made their huge profit out of the 2008 crash. So we have a prime parasite probably coming to power. Okay. He also has bought himself 12 homes. Why anybody needs 12 homes, I'm not really sure. I suppose if I were a billionaire, I might, have a couple of villas here or there or something like that. I don't know. I suppose that's right. But I'm aware that when one buys multiple homes as a rich person, you're pricing poor people out of the market gradually because you push prices up. It might be better to build your own or something, I suppose. Or better still, just stay in a hotel when you're on holiday, That brings business to the local community. Better to use your money to set up some sort of charitable foundation and do something useful, Not just sit on it and buy houses. Anyway, he also, of course, remember he has his wife who is using the non-domicile status, although she was living here and working here. Well, I don't know what sort of work she does, to be honest. But she's the daughter of a wealthy Indian industrialist, I believe. And there was some scandal associated with that, which I don't remember. But yeah, so she was avoiding tax while her husband was Chancellor of the Exchequer, the chief Treasury Minister of the country, basically. So, a great couple. Liz Truss, she went and had a row with the Russians over Ukraine and demonstrated that she knew nothing about it, basically. So there you go. And she's a bit of a warmonger too. I don't think we need warmongers. We do need to, calm it down. However, the West is plainly warmongering, generally. Difficult to know what to do in a situation like that, though. Do you help Ukraine or allow the Russians to walk all over it? it's because we shouldn't have been impinging on Russian borders in the first place, of course. Would the Russians have been safe and reliable if we hadn't? Who knows? Anyway, it's a bad situation, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better, because Vlad the Invader is putting through, or trying to push through, a law which allows him to fully mobilise the Russian population for war, and a wartime economy in particular, because they're running out of weapons or ammunition. So he wants to have 24-hour production and things of that sort, and calling people up to work in the factories and so on. And it has to be said, NATO is also running out of ammo. We're probably better placed to make more, but still. Right now, if Russia were to invade Europe, we don't have much to counter them with. The rest of Europe, I mean, anyway. And our tactical weapons are good, but our nuclear weapons are obsolete. And the Russians have lots, thousands of tactical nukes, and we have a couple of hundred, the West in total. And it's probable these days, given the doctrines of both sides, that such weapons would be used at some point. So there you go. It's best to try and calm things down, but I'm not sure how. But anyway, we're going to end up probably with Fishy Rishi. Now, he claims he's against cutting taxes. I think Liz Truss is in favour of cutting taxes. Of course, Rishi is the one who put people's expenses up at the same time as all this inflation was getting out of control. So he really understands economics. Or how people live. The thing is, what cuts will guarantee? He wants to cut services to save government expenditure. Okay. And to cut debts and so on. Now, the trouble is that government expenditure is counted as part of GDP, that is economic activity, the gross domestic product of a country. That includes business output, plus government spending, plus the difference between imports and exports. Basically, that's it. So if he cuts government spending, that will result in recession. Directly. If he makes any significant cuts. We're probably heading for recession anyway. When it's announced towards the end of this month, I think we will have had 2 quarters of reduced growth probably in Britain, so we'll probably be in recession anyway. The idea of cutting the government expenditure and raising taxes is to try and cut demand overall in order to fight the inflation. So what it will do is put up unemployment, it'll increase poverty, it'll reduce confidence, and therefore business output will probably decline too. And it may have some impact on inflation, but we have to remember that inflation at present is caused on the supply side rather than on the demand side. So, like people are saying that wage demands will put inflation up, they probably won't, because the key causes of inflation at the moment are supply, shortages of supply. And also most of the wage increases are below the true rate of inflation anyway, so they actually represent wage cuts. of sorts. So if you have a 7% pay increase while inflation officially is at 11% and unofficially is probably more like 16%, especially for the items that poor people buy like food, what you're giving people are pay cuts. They are worse off than they were a year ago. So that is still drawing money out of the economy. So I don't think those wage increases that are being asked for are inflationary. And with government cuts, all we'll have is stagflation. With inflation, that is inflation going up and productivity going down. The supply side problems are caused by mismanagement of Brexit, number one in this country, because the government has been so complacent, it's incredible. I mean, they believe in laissez-faire economics, they leave things be. But I didn't believe they believed in it so strongly as to do literally nothing. It's incredible. I don't believe in laissez-faire economics. I believe in intervening to tweak markets to do what you want them to do. You know, using some intelligence, not just leaving it to a natural, undefined system, which kind of works sometimes. It's also due to the 2019 events and the fact that container ships and containers are still stuck in the Far East, especially with all the lockdowns in China. We still have a shortage of difficulty getting supplies out of there, and with the political situation getting worse, that's probably not going to get any better. There's a real risk. I mean, chip shortages now mean that it's very hard to buy a new laptop. You can get some, and some brands and so on, but there are long waiting lists sometimes. And a lot of companies are having problems getting supplies, and the West has very stupidly left it all up basically to a couple of factories in Taiwan and China, and seriously, it's hard to fathom how politicians could be so stupid, isn't it? I don't know. Anyway. And the climate is also hitting the supply of food. I think it's worth mentioning. We've got, of course, you have your own lightweight in President Biden, I suppose, in America, who he tries to sound like he's important and when he's speaking. I think he's trying to. I'm not sure if it's the way he speaks unconsciously. I have a feeling he's trying to sound presidential when he speaks, but it just sounds awful to me. My opinion. He went to visit Saudi Arabia and he told the Crown Prince that what he thought, that he was responsible for the death of that journalist Khashoggi. And I'm sure the Crown Prince replied, "Well, thanks for all the military equipment that's allowing us to kill thousands of innocent civilians in Yemen at the same time." Speaking of the weather, as I was a moment ago, we're due to reach 40 degrees Celsius in Britain, 104 Fahrenheit this summer, in fact Monday. That'll be Monday, whatever the date is. Monday the 18th of July, 2022. That'll be the first time it's ever reached 40 degrees Celsius in modern history in Britain. I don't know how far back that goes, but it's being touted as unprecedented. I lived in Australia back in, I don't know, about 1970. Okay, a long time ago, and it hit 42 Celsius there once, 106, 107 Fahrenheit for a couple of days. It was hot, okay, and that was unusual. Normally, summer in Australia it's in the 30s, but not the 40s. But that was then. I reckon they probably have 40-degree temperatures a lot more often now in Australia. And people over here are complacent. On, say, on Twitter or somewhere, they say, "Oh, it's only 1 or 2 days. What's all the fuss about?" Right? But think about it. This could be one of the coolest summers that we will experience for the rest of our lives. It's not just a one-off. Global warming is not being controlled. The Tory party, they're having a meeting about what to do about the hot weather 2 days before it happens, right? I mean, there's advanced planning for you. It's pathetic. Do you remember COP26, the climate talks? And the previous 25? I don't think anything much has happened or will happen. Stuff is happening, but it's called the Great Reset, and it's being done outside democratic circles. So governments will clamp down in various ways at various times due to crises which they are generating or which happen accidentally. Who knows which. And they'll blame the crises for the actions so that they don't take the blame themselves. I think that's how it's working. I think that's how it's going to happen. So we have food shortages, major food shortages coming up, not just because of Ukraine and the war there, and all the grain they produce and Russia produces, but also because of droughts in the US, a heat dome over Europe now, this year, and torrential flooding in parts of China, and very low crop yields throughout large parts of the world because of climate changing. The crops are very sensitive to the particular climate zone that they're grown in, and when the properties of those climate zones change, the crops really don't do very well. If you look at the way civilization developed, this is from Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs and Steel. He noticed that the European Asian civilizations developed the most because they have a huge single climate zone stretching all the way from essentially Portugal all the way across to China, with a few little interruptions in between. But that's a huge area where the same crops can be grown. And China's climate zone is a large one in the southeast, where you have climate suitable for rice, where it's more tropical. Whereas, say, in the Americas, it's vertically orientated, so you have, instead of a wide climate zone across a huge continent is vertical. Same with Africa. So you have narrow climate zones. So it's a large area of land, but it limits the potential. So you have a wheat growing belt. Then below that you have like desert zones, and then you have tropical zone, and so on, all in fairly narrow bands. Whereas in Europe you had the temperate zone going all the way thousands and thousands of miles. But if these climate zones are moving, I guess they're moving northwards, Asia will not be so much impacted, because except that most of this climate zone is going to be in Russia, which for political reasons is a bit of a problem. But for now, it means serious food shortages coming up, maybe later this year. We'll be hearing about it, I think, in the news by Christmas, perhaps. And we're certainly seeing the prices right now in this country. Well, I guess that's it for an update. Don't know what else I can talk about, so leave your comments below. What should I do? How can we fix the world? You know. Okay, bye for now.